Okay. All right, so Danielle prepared this. I'm about to give you out a note card, okay? If you lose it, I might roll my eyes, but I'll give you another one, okay? Or sigh or something like that, or frown. Oh, sorry. Y'all need to be quiet, girls, like super serious, okay? Oh, by the way, you have all like packets that you need for Friday, okay? But you may see my email. Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm about to hand you a note card, and you can write on the front and the back. Don't ask me questions, okay? I wouldn't be giving you a note card. I've given exams like my whole career. I've been at Marymount 6 years, and this like give them a note card thing is new to me. So I have to ask other people like, what are these note card rules? And they seem to change from year to year. Like teachers in the math department, oh, they can't have this, they can't have that. And I'm like, they have a note card. What do we care? But anyway, what you cannot do, and some of us will be walking around and checking your note card. We won't take it away from you, but one suggestion is with a black Sharpie, we might mark out things that we didn't want on there. It doesn't apply a whole lot to Algebra 2, but things you are not supposed to write on there are examples, like 3x minus 2 equals 7, then you add 2 to both sides kind of thing, okay? You can write yourself notes, like Margot and I talked about how she might write down about the shifting back and forth, probably similar to the sticky note you and I talked about. You can write yourself, notes. You can write formulas on it. You can write front and back. You cannot print and glue it on. It has to be in your own handwriting, and I'll tell you why that is in just a minute, okay? But you don't like just start printing off algebra stuff and taping it on here. There's not a whole lot of formulas that we have. You may find that you write 3 things on the note card and like, what am I supposed to be writing on the note card, okay? Some of you may pack it front and back with stuff. I'm not sure what in this class. In my pre-cal class, I can imagine lots of things that they want to write on there. A lot of what we do is like common sense kind of things, like you understand the graphing stories or you don't. There's not a whole lot you can put on the note card about that. So I'm not taking questions. You cannot print, paste, glue, run this through a printer or anything like that, okay? It has to be your own handwriting. The reason for that is if you're writing it yourself, it's a great study habit. It's imprinting it on your brain. That's how I probably eventually got good at mathematics, was I would get blank, like I send you a lot of times blank worksheets, and I would work problems over and over and over again until I knew exactly, or as best I could, what I was doing. If I had to memorize a poem, or I had to memorize a period of history and, for a test, I would write down all the people that were generals in the war and what happened, and I would try to check back my notes and see if I read it right. And I'd physically write it with my hand. So that's why we want you writing it with your hand, because the funny thing is, if you haven't done this before, most students hardly ever look at their note card, if at all. They walk out of the exam going, I didn't even look at my note card. That's because they wrote it all themselves, and so they know it. So it's kind of probably why the math department lets you have a note card, because it's a great study tool. As you fast forward to my next test after the exam, I'm not going to let you have a note card, but you could make your own little note card that you can't actually use on test day, but you see how it's a great study tool? It doesn't have to be a note card. I have students come up and show me a sheet of paper like front and back where they've written a whole bunch of stuff down they want to remember. Some of my calculus girls were having a hard time this morning a couple hours before the test saying, I can't remember those integrals of inverse trig functions. And I'm like, get out a blank sheet of paper, try to write them from memory, check and see if you got it right. If you didn't get it right, do it again until you get it right 3 times, okay? So it's a muscle brain memory thing. So you can write front and back. You cannot put examples on here like working out a problem. I would suggest that you maybe don't even fill out the note card yet, but you get a blank sheet of paper. And as you're reviewing for the exam, you write down things you want to put on the note card later. I would give you another note card if you mess up the one I give you. But my suggestion is that you keep yourself a running piece of paper of things you want to eventually put on your note card, okay? As you're studying, it'll call it to mind. I will not tell you what to put on your note card. I've just told you what not to put on your note card, okay? So no, like, written out examples. And it's up to you. It's a personal thing, okay? I'd put my name on it if I were you, in case you spend a lot of time on it and you lose it, maybe somebody can find it, okay? Or take pictures of it every now and then in case you're working really hard on it and then you can't remember what you put on it. Might be a good idea to take a picture of it as you go, okay? So note cards are coming around. Just take one and just try to keep up with it. Okay, any questions only about the note cards? All right, let's talk about, for just a minute, your factoring packet, and then we'll switch over to the exam. So if you get your factoring packet out, all right, so get your factoring packet out and keep those note cards going around. I think I handed out enough. All right, let's, did we do the entire first 2 pages of the factoring packet?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look back at 15 real quickly. And this is also exam review, by the way, okay? So this is number 15. And you have 2x plus 5 times x minus 4, thank you, minus x minus 4 times 5x plus 2. And it happened at the end of class, and I was seemingly freaking out over, oh my gosh, there's a minus sign. You shouldn't do that your entire math career. You have to be on your toes when you have a minus sign because you've got to take it all the way through everything behind it. Oh, by the way, one thing that some of you have been emailing me about the exam is if you have an accommodation or extended time, you will be in a separate room. If you do not have extended time, you'll be in the gym with hundreds of people taking the exam. If you have extended time, Mr. Yang will be telling you where to go, what to do, and people will be monitoring. Some of you have time and a half and all sorts of different accommodations, and they will follow that in a separate room so that you're not sitting up there trying to get your extended time in a room full of people that are leaving after, an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it would disturb you. You'll be in your own room. I can't imagine you have a question. You've already asked your question. What's your question now?
It's just, do you have to email you if you get extra time?
Well, you've already done that, which is a great thing. Be like Yana. Email me about before any test if you have extended time, because a couple of you run into you didn't email me about it and I couldn't give it to you because something happened after school or you had a class or something. But you don't have to email me for extended time, but for the exam. You have to for every test because I have to plan ahead for that, and you do too. All right? But for the exam, it's a set morning, and so it's a little different. It would not hurt to email me that you have extended time. I have a list of everybody, but Yana, thanks. That's a good suggestion. If you email me you have extended time, that just helps my backup plan of getting all of those exams in the right place at the right time. But Mr. Yang also helps with that. But it'd be great if I have a list. Don't raise your hand or anything. But a lot of you have extended time, or a few of you do. And so, Yana, you've already emailed me. You don't have to email me again because she's already on top of things checking that out, okay? But sometimes I don't know if you have extended time or not because some of you are so good at finishing your test in the time frame. But for the exam, I think you might as well take that if you have it. I don't even know who I'm talking to. But so, yeah, let's say that. Shoot me an email if you have extended time, and I'll double check with Mr. Yang. Grazie, was that your question?
No, I was just wondering how long the final was, how many hours?
I honestly can't remember the exact time frame for that day, which is kind of silly, but it only happens once a year. But the exams are like, Miss O.D., we take each other's exams. Like I gave an AP Cal BC test this morning. And granted, I made it out, but I took it this morning, and it took me 15 minutes. That way it gives me, now multiply that by 3, it should take them 45 minutes, okay? And we had a 50-minute class. My point is, I felt like they should finish the test in the appropriate amount of time. Miss O.D., I took Miss O.D.'s Algebra 2 tests, her Algebra 2 Honors and her Algebra 2 Regular, and I think it took me 20 minutes. But you'll have an hour and a half or 2 hours. She took the Algebra 2A test. I don't know if she was exaggerating, but she said it took her 10 minutes. So you'll have plenty of time. If you know your stuff, you'll have plenty. Right. That's why we multiply it. Do you see what I mean, Bailey? Yeah, I mean, an AP Calculus test, it took me 15 minutes to take it. I made it out. I teach it year after year. But it took some time to take. So then we multiply. I don't look at them and go, well, you should be finished in 15 minutes. Okay? Okay, so let me take a few more questions about the exam before we talk about factoring. Sophia?
Well, actually, you probably can't answer this question, but how many pages is it?
Oh, I don't mind telling you that, but the pages are not really going to be helpful to you. You might want the number more than the pages. Because the pages, like if you look at your review packet, sometimes there's just a page for one question because it's matching or something, okay? Or there's a big graph I want you to look at, or a graphing stories matching that I hope, we'll see if you've done those graphing stories, because I sent you a copy of all the old tests. So pages is not an important thing to you. The number of problems might be important to you, and I'll tell you that later. I mean, I could pull it up on my computer, but right now that's not a concern. Your concern is that I know how to make out a really good exam for Algebra 2A, and then you come in and you take it, okay? I don't remember how many problems are on it, but you should finish in the exam time if you don't have extended time. If you do have extended time, I'm sort of guessing you won't be using it, but you'll be there in case you need to. Okay? Susan, is your hand up, or are you looking at your fingertips? Okay.
Is this our last unit of the year?
Absolutely not.
Last year before the test, but then at the end.
And we just, after the exam,
Yeah.
before spring breaks even comes, that week before spring break, we just start back to everything that we always did. I teach new material, you take quizzes and tests. So the good thing is if you don't do as well as you wanted to on the exam, you have some time to do some assessments to pull that up. As opposed to, I can remember taking an exam in one of my math classes that I didn't do too well on, and I didn't have any time to make it up because it was the very last thing I ever did in there, and it pulled my grade down a bit. So, yeah, we just keep on like normal after this, Susan, okay? All right, so here we go. A minus sign is, let me get another color. I'm going to make it neon green. I want to call your attention to that minus sign. You always, I'll make it white, I think might even show up better and make more of an impact. This has got to apply to everything behind it. Like for instance, if I have 5 minus 3 plus 2 minus 1, what is being subtracted here? Just the 3?
No, the whole.
So it'd be 5 minus 3. You'd have minus 2, but you'd have plus 1. That minus sign goes to everything behind it. Girls, I feel like all year I've emphasized parentheses. You got to use parentheses behind minus signs. I don't really care about plus signs. What if I had this? Does that change anything? It's still 5 plus 3 plus 2 minus 1. Do you see how scary the minus sign is? It's not actually scary. You're very smart. You don't need to be scared of it, but you need to be aware of it. So what do these two have in common? Raise your hand if you know what they have in common. They have a group of letters, of numbers and letters in common. Margot? All right, so Margot and I are going to pull this to the outside. It's like you're dividing it out, and you put it in parentheses, because the whole group, x minus 4, is coming out. And so I wanted to talk about this a little bit more. If I take out x minus 4 to the outside here, what's left is 2x plus 5. Okay? Minus, if I take it to the outside, what's left is 5x plus 2. And girls, when I was doing all the ones before this with a plus sign, I wasn't using parentheses in my second set right here. But I probably should do it every time. It's not going to hurt anything if it's plus, but it's going to help if it's minus. Do y'all see my fear? Watch my finger. My fear is that you're going to go minus 5x and say plus 2. What does that minus apply to? Both of those. Okay? And so my final answer here is x minus 4. I would take time to go in and write this out. So this is 2x plus 5 minus 5x what? Minus 2. Do we have any like terms?
Yes.
2x minus 5x is negative 3x, and 5 minus 2 is 3. Now, why I wanted to revisit this problem, and I made myself a note in my own syllabus, is I'm not finished with this problem, because you're supposed to factor. All right, so what if I told you to factor 24, and you said 2 times 12? Would your lower school teacher let you be finished with factoring? Because what can happen with 12? It can still be factored, right? Even if I did 4 and 3, I'm still not through. Right. Look at this, girls. I'm still not through what we call factoring. What's your first rule in factoring? Who's my person that's my Kate Unrath in here? Is it Margot? First rule in factoring. Is there anything in common in any one of these parentheses? Bella? Oh, no. You look in your parentheses. Do these have anything in common?
No.
Do these have anything in common?
No. -3.
They both have a 3 in them, girls. Don't they?
Yeah.
Don't you see those both have a 3 in them?
Yeah. They remind each other.
Okay. Ella and Evelyn, close your computer. Okay. Let's close all the computers. There's no need to have them open now. Maybe later if you're looking at the review packet. Watch this. If I have, we started it on the first page. So all of a sudden you're confused when you were doing fine on the first page. Look at number 2 on the first page. Flip over. Is 9x squared minus 3x. And by the way, we're doing our review right now on factoring, okay? 9x squared minus 3x. What do they have in common? Raise your hand if you know. All right, Sarah? A 3 and an x. So Sarah and I are going to take out a 3 and an x. What's left if we take out a 3 and an x right here? A 3 and a x. And what's left right here if you take out a 3x? 1. Girls, you should know if you got this right. Because couldn't you distribute and see if you get what you started with? Okay? All right. Also, I'll check this. Bella, computer should be closed.
Oh, I was looking for it because I don't have my packet, so I was looking for this online. Sorry.
It's not. I don't think. Because I handed one to everybody. I don't think it's online. So can you look on with Sarah for now? Susan, I'm sorry. I've got so many S's. Sophia. Can you just look on with her? Right here. Use my packet for now. You can just have this one.
Yeah, I don't know where my binder is.
And I may just share with somebody closer to me. Here's these 2 pages for now.
Oh, so I can just share Sophia's time.
Are you sure you can just take notes?
No, I
All right. Girls, watch this. What if I have everybody watch? Let me see if there's one I can use on this page. Okay, look at number 5. Are y'all looking at 5? 12x squared minus 16x. I'm not going to ask you what's in common. Okay? I'm going to do it a little bit wrong on purpose. I'm going to say, oh, those are both even. They have a 2 and an x in common. Don't write anything down. Every eye on the board. Okay? Because if you write it down, you could be writing down the wrong thing. Chances are, if you paid attention in the last class, you've got the correct thing on your paper. All right? Do y'all see these are both even? And they both have an x in them. So I took out a 2x. That would leave me a 6x here. And what would it leave me here?
8.
An 8. Very good. Am I through? No. Do y'all see my problem? I didn't factor out enough. What does 6 and 8 still have in common?
2.
6 and 8 have 2. So I didn't take out enough stuff.
It would be the GCL, that's why.
So that's why if you... Girls. For all of us, there's going to be some time that we don't take out the most that we can by accident. So double check your answer. Do you see this student should still catch their problem? Don't just go come through factoring. Don't just say 24 is 2 times 12 and go on to the next problem. Stop and see if it can still be factored. What can I take out of this? Another 2. Well, there's a 2 sitting here. If I factor out another 2, it's multiplied, and that makes it 4x. I take a 2 out of this and a 2 out of this. And is that the answer on your paper?
Yes.
So do you see what Bella's saying here with the 12 and the 16? You want to cycle through the biggest thing you can take out so you don't have to do it twice. If I take out the biggest thing first, I go right to the right answer, okay? All right, so now let's go back to why was I saying that? Hey, girls, I still feel like I'm talking over people, so please don't talk. The next 3 days are so important, okay? I'm not finished with this problem because now what does the second parentheses have in common? Rebecca? A 3. All right, so I'm going to take out a 3. Take it out anywhere you want to. It's divided out. You can put it even very in front. You're going to take it out here. So that's going to give me x minus 4. And if Rebecca takes out this 3, it leaves her negative x. And what if she takes a 3 out of 3? What's 3 divided by 3? 1. Okay? Now, there are some people that might take out a negative 3, and that's okay. You would have a slightly different answer. This answer is okay, and this answer is okay. I'll understand whichever way you do it. Okay? So there was a lot in number 15, which is why I revisited it. Instead of the last few minutes of class, you're getting up, you're ready to go to your next class, and this was way too important to risk me not going over that. Okay? So, look at this. All right, suppose I have x plus 1 times 2x minus 5 minus x plus 1 times 4x minus 1. Okay? And it'll say factor on the exam. Okay? And we talked about the other day in class. Aren't we kind of dying to multiply it out? Okay? But, so look at the instructions. We're factoring. We're starting to pull things apart, not put them together. What do they have in common? Raise your hand if you know. What do they have in common, Maria?
X.
More than that. What do they have in common, girls? Oh, by the way, here's a term and here's a term. Do you see they're separated by the minus sign? Gabby, what do they have in common?
X plus 1.
Do you see they have x plus 1 in common?
Yes.
Okay, they both have an x plus 1 in them. So I'm going to take out an x plus 1 to the outside in parentheses. I'm going to put what's left also in parentheses. You pulled out an x plus 1 and 2x minus 5 is left. You pulled out an x plus 1 and 4x minus 1 is left. You're not finished because you have like terms. All right, in here, that gives me 2x minus 5 minus 4x plus 1. Very good.
Mrs. Eric, I have a question quickly.
You don't ever have to ask. You just get up and go.
Thank you.
Okay, this was minus 4x plus 1.
Yes.
Now, what's 2x minus 4x?
2x.
Negative 2x. And what's negative 5 and a positive 1? Negative 4. And some students will leave that problem and go on to the next problem, but you should pause and go, have I completely factored it? What does the second parentheses have in common? A 2. Y'all saw it this time, okay? I think like Sophia knows, I can factor out a negative 2 also. Either one of those is fine. Just be careful. I'm just going to factor out a 2. A lot of people would factor out a negative 2. All right, so that leaves me x plus 1. I took this 2 outside. If I factor out a 2, it leaves me a negative x and a negative 2. That is fine. You can leave it like that. Some people will even factor out the negative. Do y'all see these both have a negative in it?
Yes.
And you factor things out, you're pulling it out to the outside. Girls, you've done that anyway. Let's go back to 24. Haven't you said 2 times and then left your leftover 12? And then 4 and 3? And this 2's just still sitting there as another factor. That's what we're doing, okay? All right. Now, we're skipping the next page, which, does it say page 5 at the top?
Yeah.
All right, so for right now, don't draw a big X through it, but let's just draw a tiny X through that page. Just right now, you're not responsible for that page. It's the 3rd page of your packet. At the top, though, it says solving literal equations.
Do I just cross it?
I did this.
Skip it.
No.
Write the word skip it would be fine. That's not difficult, girls. We're not doing this page before the exam. Okay? Rebecca?
Oh, I was just still confused about number 15. I just have a question. Why did you write the 3 before x minus 4?
Y'all listen, if Rebecca has a question, I'd be listening. She doesn't have many questions, okay? So her question might be your question. Sorry, Rebecca, you just do so well in here. I didn't want to embarrass you. I could do this, Rebecca. I could go x minus 4. All right, that's in the front. And right here, I could take out a 3. And then I could write what's left is negative x plus 1. And that would also be fine. It just, in math, if we have like one number, we usually write it in the front.
Okay.
So if I have 24 times 2 times 12 and 3 times 4 and 2 times 2, I don't have to write it 2 times 3 times 2 times 2. I could write it 3 times 2 times 2 times 2. You can reorder them, and just naturally as you go through upper school, if you have a constant that you're pulling out, we just usually put it in the very front, that little bitty thing. So girls, this is what she's asking me. If you end up with x minus 3 times 2x plus 6, I'm not finished. I have a 2 in common. So what Rebecca may have expected me to do is to put the 2 right here, and that leaves me x plus what? 6 divided by 2? 3. Rebecca, how I would write it, though, is 2 times x minus 3 times x plus 3. Okay? All right. Do y'all see what she was saying? The order doesn't matter, but if I have a little number or variable I'm pulling out, I usually put it in the front. You don't have to. Okay, we're not going to do all of the 4th page, which ironically, I'm sorry, says page 6. I just didn't like the first 2 pages of the packet. All right, so is everybody on this fun chart page? Okay, so
She blends in. She looks like God.
Why is she so
Why
dark?
she's Muhammad?
Why is she so dark?
They're Armenian. It's called Armenian.
They don't do
Armenian.
What do they do? No.
all right, girls, this is how we're going to
Yeah.
play.
Also spray tan.
This is how we're going to play the game.
Yeah.
Equals Chris Jenner's
No, he's not dark. Oh, sorry.
Just wasting time, okay? Slides are fun, but I think we've talked about it enough. Let's move along. All right, I've got to think of 2 numbers whose product is negative 6 and whose sum is 1. So you'd think through, you need a product, you multiply something to get 6, like negative 2 times 3. Is that what you're going to say, Bella?
Yeah.
I'll let you do the next one. All right, not yet though, because I'm going to catch them up. If I have negative 2 and 3, what's negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and what's negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So it's like a little fun game that helps us factor, actually. All right, so now we've got to do 36 and negative 13. By the way, when we start really factoring for real, which a lot of you have already done, if not everybody, this number's going to be in the back, and this number's going to be in the middle. And we'll go through thinking like we're thinking right now. So I have 36 and negative 13. I've got to think of two numbers that multiply to be 36 and add to be negative 13. Let me give Bella a chance because she was going to give me the last one. Bella, do you know what they are?
Yes, -9 and -4.
No.
Negative 9 times negative 4 is 36. And negative 9 plus negative 4 is negative 13. Now, girls, listen. Some people may have thought of like other things, but those are the only two that add up that right way. All right, now, everybody, let everybody think. Nobody say anything for negative 16 and negative 6. Don't say anything. If you know the answer, don't say it, but raise your hand. If you don't know the answer, don't look at other people's papers, think. The only way you're going to come up with this is to think. Okay? Evelyn, what do you think?
Factors are negative 8 and
Great. Okay? They multiply to give her negative 16. They add to give her negative 6. Okay? So we're not going to fill out this whole page because that would be kind of overkill. We're going to actually see what happens. So skip that, go to that page. I want you to skip all the way to, you're going to skip a lot. All right, go to the thing that says page 12. Page 12.
Did we skip these before the exam?
No, I didn't say to X them. I just want you to turn to page 12. Okay? All right, look at number 16. Does everybody see number 16 on page 12? It's at the very tippy top. 4c cubed minus 42c to the 5th minus 49c to the 4th. If you can do this, you can do anything as far as factoring is concerned. Here's why I make such a big deal about Margot and Kate Unwrap. Okay? Because if you start trying to factor that right now, you're going to drive yourself crazy. If you don't stop at the first rule of factoring. What's the first rule of factoring? Do they have anything in common?
Yes.
How many C's?
7, 3.
They each have 3 C's in them. So C cubed and a 7?
Yes.
That goes to the outside like Rebecca and I were talking about. Okay? Now what's left here if I take out a 7? 14 divided by 7. 2. No C, right? Minus 6C squared. Did I copy this down right? Yeah. All right, and then minus 7C. What is this, a 2? All right. Then I'll rearrange them. Do y'all know what I mean by in descending order?
Yes.
All right, so you have negative 6C squared minus 7C and a positive 2. I just rearranged it in descending order. That's just common sense. Okay, and I just looked at the clock. Sorry, it's right at 2:50. And so, don't we, isn't that right? Yeah. So we need to finish up. All right, so girls, let's say this because I want the last days that we're together to be purely on the exam packet. And so the only pages that you're responsible for in this packet before the exam are the first 2. I didn't want to see how far I got today. So we reviewed for that. And then the next class, I'll just be starting to take questions off the review packet. I'll also post the answers probably before Friday. Okay? Just the first 2 pages for the exam. And there's also some of it on the exam. Hey, girls, please listen up if you have time as you're leaving. Your homework will be to start reviewing. But if you also check your homework, you'll see I'll tell you which ones to omit from the review packet that we won't get to. Okay? I'll double check that, yeah. I'll update that.
See if it's on.
Yeah. Because that would drive you crazy, so I'll update it. Let me turn this off real quick.